ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਆਈ ਹੋਪ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਠੀਕ ਠਾਕ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ। ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਰੈਡੀ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਆਪਣੀ 15 ਮਿੰਟ ਦੀ ਬੁੱਕ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਪਲੱਸ ਇੱਕ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਆ, ਮੇਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਸਕਿਪ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਬੁੱਕ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਤੋਂ, ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਪੈਨਲਟੀ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਨ ਕੇਸ ਮੈਂ ਸਕਿਪ ਕਰੂੰਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਾਈਮਰ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਉਹ 15 ਮਿੰਟ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਗਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਉਹ 20 ਮਿੰਟਸ ਹੋ ਜਾਊਗਾ। ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਦੀ ਪੈਨਲਟੀ 5 ਮਿੰਟਸ ਐਕਸਟਰਾ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਆ। ਠੀਕ ਆ, ਤੇ ਠੀਕ ਆ ਜੀ, ਬਿਨਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਡਿਲੇ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਟਾਰਟ। The part of brain that keeps track of our positions in the dominance hierarchy is therefore exceptionally ancient and fundamental. It is a master control system, modulating our perceptions, values, emotions, thoughts, and actions. It powerfully affects every aspect of our being, conscious and unconscious alike. This is why, when we are defeated, we act very much like lobsters who have lost a fight. Our posture droops. We face ground. We face the ground. We feel threatened, hurt, anxious, and weak. If things do not improve, we become chronically depressed. Under such under such conditions, we can't easily put up the kind of fight that life demands, and we become easy targets for hard-shelled bullies. And it is not only the behavioral and experiential experiential similarities that are striking. Much of the basic neurochemistry is the same. Consider serotonin, the chemical that governs posture and escape in the lobster. Low-ranking lobsters produce comparatively low levels of serotonin. This is also true of low-ranking human beings, and those low levels decrease more with each defeat. Low serotonin means decreased confidence. Low serotonin means more response to stress and costlier physical preparedness for emergency. As anything, whatsoever may happen at any time at the bottom of the dominance hierarchy, and really something good. Serotonin means less happiness, more pain and anxiety, more illness, and a shorter lifespan among humans just as among crustaceans. Higher spots in the dominance hierarchy and the higher serotonin levels, typical of those who inhabit them, are characterized by illness, misery, and death. Even when factors such as absolute income or number of decaying food scraps are held constant, the importance of this can hardly be overstated. Top and bottom. There is an unspeakably primordial calculator deep within you and deep within you at the very foundation of your brain, far below your thoughts and feelings. It monitors exactly where you are positioned in society on a scale of 1 to 10 for the sake of argument. If you are a number If you are a number one, the highest level of status, you are an overwhelming success. If you are male, you have preferential access to the best places to live and the highest quality food. People compete to do you favors. You have limitless opportunity for romantic and sexual contact. You are a successful lobster, and the most desirable females line up and vie for your attention. Why spellings are VIE. If you are female, you have access to many high quality suitors. What is suitor? SUITORS, yes. Tall, strong, and symmetrical, creative, reliable, honest, and generous. And like your dominant male counterpart, you will compete ferociously. Word is ferociously, even pitilessly, to maintain or improve your position in the equally competitive female mating hierarchy. Although you are less likely to use physical aggression to do so, There are many effective verbal tricks and strategies at your disposal. What is disposal? Including the disparaging. What is disparaging? Disparaging of opponents, and you may well be expert at their use. If you are a low status 10, by contrast, male or female, you have nowhere to live or nowhere good. Your food is terrible when you are not going hungry. You are in poor physical and mental condition. You are of minimal romantic interest to anyone unless they are as desperate as you. You are more likely to fall ill, age rapidly, and die young, with few, if any, to mourn you. Mourn. Even money itself may prove of little use. You won't know how to use it because it is difficult to use money properly, particularly if you are unfamiliar with it. People will make you liable to the dangerous temptations of drugs and alcohol, which are much more rewarding if you have been deprived of pleasure for a long time. Money will also make you a target for predators and psychopaths who thrive on exploiting those who exist on the lower rungs of society. The bottom of the dominance hierarchy is a terrible, dangerous place to be. The ancient part of your brain, specialized for assessing dominance, watches how you are treated by other people. On that evidence, it renders a determination of your value and assigns you a status. If you are judged by your peers as of little worth, the counter restricts serotonin availability. That makes you much more physically and psychologically reactive to any circumstance or even that might produce emotion, particularly if it is negative. You need that reactivity. You need that reactivity. Emergencies are common at the bottom and you must be ready to survive. Unfortunately, that physical hyper response, that constant alertness burns up a lot of precious energy and physical resources. This response is really what everyone calls stress, and it is by no means only or physical, primarily psychological. It's a reflection of the genuine constraints of unfortunate circumstances. When operating at the bottom, the ancient brain counter assumes that even the smallest unexpected impediment, what is impediment, might produce an uncontrollable chain of negative events which will have to be handled alone, as useful friends are rare indeed on society's fringes. You will therefore continually sacrifice what you could otherwise physically store for the future, using it up on heightened readiness and immediate panicked action in the present. When you don't know what to do, you must be prepared to do anything and everything in case it becomes necessary. It becomes necessary. You are sitting in your car with the gas and brake pedals both punched to the mat. Too much of that and everything falls apart. The ancient counter will even shut down your immune system, expending the energy and resources required for future health now during the crisis of the present. It will render you impulsive so that you will jump, for example, at any short term meeting opportunities or any possibilities of pleasure, no matter how subpar, disgraceful, or illegal. It will leave you far more likely to live or die carelessly for a rare opportunity at pleasure when it manifests itself. The physical demands of emergency preparedness will wear you down in every way. If you have a high status, on the other hand, the counter's cold, pre-reptilian mechanisms assume that your niche is secure, productive, and safe, and that you are well buttressed. Word is buttressed with social support. It thinks The chance it thinks the chance that something will damage you is low and can be safely discounted. Change might be opportunity instead of disaster. The serotonin flows plentifully. This renders you confident and calm, standing tall and straight, and much less on constant alert because your position is secure. The future is likely to be good for you. It's worthwhile to think in the long term and plan for a better future, for a better tomorrow. You don't need to grasp impulsively at whatever crumbs come your way because you can realistically expect good things to remain available. You can delay gratification without foregoing it forever. What is foregoing? You can afford to be reliable and thoughtful citizen, malfunction. Sometimes, however, the counter mechanism can go wrong. Erratic habits of sleeping, what is erratic? And eating can interfere with its function. Uncertainty can throw it for a loop. The body, with its various parts, needs to function like a well rehearsed orchestra. Every system must play its role properly and at exactly the right time, or noise or chaos ensue. What is ensue? ENSUE. It is for this reason that routine is so necessary. The acts of life we repeat every day need to be automized. They must be tuned into stable and reliable habits so they lose their complexity and gain predictability and simplicity. This can be perceived most clearly in the case of small children who are delightful and comical and playful when their sleeping and eating schedules are stable, and horrible and Winnie WHINY, and nasty when they are not. It is for such reasons that I think that I always ask my clinical clients first about sleep. Do they wake up in the morning at approximately the time the typical person wakes up, and at the same time every day? And at the same time every day? If the answer is no, fixing that is the first thing that I recommend. It doesn't matter so much if they go to bed at the time each evening, but waking up at a consistent hour is a necessity. Anxiety and depression cannot be easily treated if the sufferer has unpredictable daily routines. The systems that immediate negative emotions are tightly tied to the properly clinical circadian rhymes. What is CIRCADIAN? The next thing I ask about is breakfast. I counsel my clients to eat a fat and protein heavy breakfast as soon as possible after they awaken. No simple carbohydrates, no sugar, as they are digested too rapidly and produce a blood sugar spike and rapid dip. This is because anxious and depressed people are already stressed, particularly if their lives have not been under control for a good while. Their bodies are therefore primed. What is primed? To hypersecrete insulin if they engage in any complex or demanding activity. If they do so after fasting all night and before eating, the excess insulin in their bloodstream will mop up all their blood sugar. Then they become hypoglycemic. And psychophysiologically unstable all day. Their systems cannot be reset until after more sleep. I have had my clients whose anxiety was reduced to subclinical levels merely because they started to sleep on a predictable schedule and eat breakfast. Other bad habits can also interfere with the counter's accuracy. Sometimes this happens directly for poorly understood biological reasons, and sometimes it happens because those habits initiate a complex positive feedback loop. A positive feedback loop requires an input dictator. an amplifier, and some form of output. Imagine a signal picked up by the detector, amplified, and then emitted in amplified form. So far, so good. The trouble starts when the input detector detects that output and runs it through the system again, amplifying and emitting it again. A few rounds of intensification, a few rounds of intensification, and things get dangerously out of control. Most people have been subject to the deafening howling, deafening howling of feedback at a concert when the sound system squeals painfully. The microphone sends a signal to the speakers. The speakers emit the signal. The signal can be picked up by the microphone and sent through the system again. If it's too loud or too slow, too close, the speakers, if it is too loud or too close to the speakers, the sound rapidly amplifies to unbearable levels sufficient to destroy the speakers if it continues. The same destructive loop happens within people's lives. Much of the time, when it happens, we label it mental illness, even though it's not only or even at all occurring inside people's psyches. Addiction to alcohol or another mood alerting drugs is a common positive feedback process. Imagine a person who enjoys alcohol, perhaps a bit too much. He has a quick 3 or 4 drinks. His blood alcohol level spikes sharply. This can be extremely exhilarating. What is exhilarating? Particularly for someone who has a genetic predisposition of alcoholism. What is predisposition? But it only occurs while blood alcohol levels are actively rising. And that only continues if the drinker keeps drinking. When he stops, not only does his blood alcohol level plateau and then start to sink, but his body begins to produce a variety of toxins as it metabolize as it metabolize as it metabolizes the ethanol already consumed. He also starts to experience alcohol withdrawal as anxiety systems that were suppressed during intoxication that were suppressed during intoxication start to hyper-respond. A hangover is alcohol withdrawal, which quite frequently kills withdrawing alcoholics, and it starts all too soon after drinking ceases to continue the warm glow and starve off. Word is starve off. The unpleasant aftermath, the drinker must just continue to drink until all the liquor in his house is consumed, the bars are closed, and his money is spent. The next day, the drinker wakes up badly hungover. So far, this is just unfortunate. The real trouble starts when he discovers that his hangover can be cured within a few more drinks the morning after. Such a cure is, of course, temporary. It merely pushes the withdrawal symptoms a bit further into the future, but that might be what is required in the short term. If the misery is sufficiently acute, what is acute? So now he has learned to drink to cure his hangover. When the medication causes the disease, a positive feedback loop has been established. Alcoholism can quickly emerge under such conditions. Something similar often happens to people who develop an disorder such as agoraphobia. What is agoraphobia? People with agoraphobia can become so overwhelmed with fear that they will no longer leave their homes. Agoraphobia is the consequence of a positive feedback loop. The first event that precip- precipitates The disorder is often a panic attack. The sufferer is typically a middle-aged woman who has been too dependent on other people. Perhaps she went immediately from over-reliance on her father to a relationship. Okay, so ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਪਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਪੈਰਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਦੋ ਤਿੰਨ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪੜ੍ਹਨੀਆਂ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ. Perhaps she went immediately from over-reliance on her father to a relationship with an older and comparatively dominant boyfriend or husband with little or no break for independent existence. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਰੀਡਿੰਗ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਟਾਪ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਮਿਲਾਂਗੇ ਜੀ ਅਗਲੀ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਫॉर ਵਾਚਿੰਗ